ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our YouTube channel. I'm Sophia Miles.
And I'm Wanda Meijer.
Now, today we have a very, very special guest that I'm going to be interviewing, and she happens to be right here already. I wanted to let you all get to know Wanda because she's an amazing woman, and we've been working together on this channel for some time now, and she's become a very, very close friend. So today I am going to interview Wanda.
Yes.
So Wanda, welcome to the channel. How are you today?
I'm doing very good, thank you.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Well, let's go back right to the beginning. Tell me about you. Tell me about where you were born, and tell me about your childhood.
Yeah, I was born in the Netherlands, of course. I was born in what's called Hogeveen, up north in the Netherlands. And I've been around the Netherlands because my father was a pastor, reverend. So I grew up with, I don't know how it's called in English, but the special houses that you live in as a reverend family.
Well, we call it a vicarage, and as you know, I'm a daughter.
Yeah,
of
you're
yeah. That's we'd say
Yeah.
vicarage in England. I don't know what they call them in America. Manse?
No, I'm not sure. No.
There's a word for it. I think it's a
Yeah.
manse. I'm not sure. Anyway.
You have to look it up, yeah.
Well,
So I always
up.
lived in these big houses, really huge houses. And well, actually from the very first beginning, my father and my mother both were from the city, Leiden, which is a really big city in the Netherlands. Yeah. And his first actual job as a reverend was on the countryside with the farmers. And they didn't really want a city reverend. And so that's actually where the bullying started, because the farmers wanted to get rid of this city reverend and his family. They actually kind of set up their kids to bully us. And I was about 3 and 4 at the time, 5. So that was a really hard time for my parents, because he was really just not accepted in that community as a reverend. And so we moved on to different communities, different cities, all countryside, because my father loved the countryside. He didn't really want to live in a big city anymore. But once you get bullied as a kid, you just get this idea that it just happens over and over again. It's like you have these defense mechanisms, and because you are always the new kid in these countryside villages, you just get picked on, and your self-esteem just goes down. So you become a victim very easily and very quickly.
Did you find, only just because I had the experience, I wondered if you had the same, that just because you were a daughter of a vicar or a preacher, that would come with some stigma, and that people would make assumptions about you before they'd met you and just thought, would think that you lived a certain way?
Yeah. Here in the Netherlands, it is very common to think that the vicar's daughters are very, very, how do I say it? Very, very neat, very kind, always go by the rules.
Really? Do you know what's interesting? Because it's the opposite in England. They think that the vicar's daughters are promiscuous minx,
Yes, and in the Netherlands it's completely the other way. Yeah, as if you don't know anything, as if you're blue, green as grass, know the Bible, of course, from A to Z, everything that's in it. Actually, even my teachers later in school actually just would ask me, like, okay, what are the this and this in the Bible? And I would just really say, like, then you have to ask my father. He learned to be a vicar, not me. Yeah. So it is here totally the opposite from England. They really think that you are this really, I don't know what it's called in English, but kuis is what we call it here. That you don't know anything and are just very by the rules and polite and everything. And it's also, of course, a role that you have to play. You are the vicar's family, So there is a lot to be expected from you. With every city festivity, you would sit with the doctor and the lawyer and the mayor and the reverend on the first row, always meeting the high people, which I found very funny and very good, actually, to meet all these kinds of special persons. In one of the villages, we had a monastery, and we would visit there often, and the entire congregation would sit in the church, but I would sit with the monks, and they would have the Bible for me and the songbook and everything. And we ate with the monks and everything. So that was really something special, meeting special people. So that was the upside. But the downside was always the bullying, because that just went on until I became 17, 18 years and went to my drama therapy school. But the entire time I was bullied, very severely bullied. Not physically. My sister had physical bullying, actually. For me, it was more name calling. And they always say, like, sticks and stones hurt, but words don't, something like that. But
what kind of stuff did they say to you?
Well, it was excluding. So I never had somebody to play with. When we would go on these school trips, I had to sit in the hallway, the corridor of the bus, not on a chair. And back then, actually, the teachers didn't do anything about it.
Well, because
there was just
the other kids wouldn't let you have a seat?
No. I didn't have a seat. I have to sit on the ground of the bus when we would be out. And they just wouldn't call me by my name. They had different names for me, and that actually is just like, I think it's called verm, the critters that you don't want, the pests that you don't want in your garden and that you spray with poison. That name is what they called me. Ongedierte is what it's called in the Netherlands. And that was just my calling name. They never called me by my real name. And always excluding and always trying to hurt me. The bit of funny part is that I don't really remember it that well, what they said or what they did, because of my fantasy. My fantasy was my escape, especially when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. I looked at a lot of television. And then you had like the A-Team and Battlestar Galactica and MacGyver. And I would just visualize them coming onto the school area and just, especially the A-Team with the big black fan just coming on and just taking me with them. And but even now when I just think back, I actually just am in the van and am doing all these adventures with these guys. Or Starbuck just picking me up in his Viper and we go to the Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica was very important for me back then. Like really my safe haven up in the universe. So yeah, that's kind of how I went through it. And just visualize my heroes right with me.
I know, I suppose when I thought it was quite a deep question really, but I experienced a lot of bullying as well. They did touch on the fact that I was a vicar's daughter, but it went beyond that with me, and it was all through my secondary school while I was a teenager. I got very badly bullied and very badly excluded from my peer group. But I just wanted to sort of ask you, how has that impacted your interaction with other people as an adult? Are you kind of free of it? Are you free of the fear of the bullying, or does it still...
I am free of the fear of the bullying. I was very afraid that I would take something with me while I was being a mom myself, so that you would like infect your kids with the same fear. But luckily, before I became a mom, I have dealt with my past as being bullied. Actually, in drama therapy education, it's like you go through your own therapy as part of the education. So as a young adult, I was really very insecure about myself, very low esteem. Actually hurt myself. Actually did mutilate myself to not feel the pain inside, to numb the pain, so to say. But when I grow older, and I learned to deal with that and build on my self-esteem again. But the funny thing is that it still comes back. No matter how much you do about it, how much self-esteem I have right now, the moment stuff happens, like on the stables or like on Twitter, social media, people always seem to try to get one another, try to push one another in a bad way. And for people like me who have been bullied that severely, it just triggers something.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid of them anymore. It's like in the movie Labyrinth, I always say, you don't have any power over me. You don't have any power over me. I am me, and I know who I am. So I get more like angry. I get more resilient and ready to fight. Bring it on.
I've noticed in the conversations that we've had, you were very, very quick to spot a bully. Very quick.
Yeah. You get that antenna. Yeah, you recognize certain behavior because it is a behavioral pattern for people that have low self-esteem themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes even have been bullied previously themselves. And it's really like also back then, kids that are bullying now, they often, I don't say every time, but they often have a very troubled childhood themselves, and low self-esteem, and they just lash out. And then that's a part of also how I coped with it. I kind of understand. I have a great understanding for people. I can think myself into another person, like what are his or her motives. Of course, that's also what I learned with drama therapy, but also what I do for myself. I can get people. Even the most horrific things, when I go into their mind, I can come to realization why they do certain things. Mm. So even with my own bullies, I kind of got why they did it. And it was just all about low self-esteem and lashing out and stuff like that.
I think all bad human behavior stems down to low sense of self-esteem.
Yeah.
I think
it's
a killer. But I think, everyone, I mean, I've suffered from it dreadfully. But I think people either do two things. They either lash out and hurt other people, or they'll hurt themselves. And I think I was always somebody that would hurt myself through, various different ways. But low sense of self-esteem is it's very dangerous, I think that's why it's so important. I don't know you as a mum, but for me, one of the most important things that I'm focused on with my parenting is making sure that Luke, my son, has a great sense of who he is. And I always tell him, that he's loved and he's wonderful and that I adore him. And he's, I tell him he's the best boy in the whole world, which,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But that is absolutely true. And that is what I find in my motherhood as well. Of course, when I became a mom, that is also quite a story.